Reddit. What is the most extreme ridiculous example of strict parenting that you've ever seen? There's this kid at my work, childcare, that still can't watch anything other than G-rated movies. 6th grade. We had a parent tell us she expected us to keep the hair out of her child's eyes at all times. What the frick do we do with that? Do we just follow her? We have 200 kids. In the 8th grade I got a C on a mid-semester letter home in algebra, and my dentist mentioned to my stepmom that I could improve my dental plan by brushing a little more. I spent 6 months grounded to a chair in the kitchen where all I was allowed to do was brush my teeth and do homework algebra assignments. I was required to hand in all the odd numbers from the book every single day. On the weekends, I had 2 assignments and a pop quiz. If I got an A on the pop quiz, I got 4 hours out of the chair to sit in my room. I aced algebra for the rest of the year, but I still quote this as an absolute overreaction. The punishment did not fit the crime. I was not allowed to have bad guy action figures, just good guys. I ended up drawing the bad guys on cardboard and having the worst battles ever. Reminds me of little girls who weren't allowed Ken dolls to go with their Barbies. Lot of friends with lesbian Barbies cause of that, or pretend this one is a guy. I have a friend whose parents thought she ate too much bread, so banned her from having any, and grounded her for 2 weeks when they caught her sneaking toast. This was when we were 15. My best childhood friend wasn't allowed to pick out her own clothes, even though she practically had no choice in the matter when it came to shopping. Her crazy controlling father still insisted on laying out her outfit for the next day, or, at the very least, approving her clothing choice. This went on until she was about 17. She got herself a job, shopped in secret, and started sneaking around so she could dress like a mega skank. Her dad once found her sack of dirty clothes, he called them, and attempted to ground her. She ran away, shacked up with an abusive loser, and that's when we stopped hanging out. I hear she's a stripper now. Way to go, daddy-o. I seriously wonder how parents like these expect anything other than this to happen. I used to have sleepovers at a friend's house, and her father would sit with us to watch our movies, and fast forward PG-rated kissing scenes. We were 17. Maybe he was trying to protect you from cooties, the deadliest of the kissing diseases. When we were 19 and home from college, we went to a friend's house to watch a movie. Her parents asked to talk to her about halfway through, and by the time the movie ended we realized we hadn't seen her since. So we go out into the next room and she's sitting in the corner reading a Bible. Apparently her parents thought we were being too loud, and instead of asking us to keep it down they put her in timeout. We politely excused ourselves and went elsewhere. My friend's father has a list of rules for his house that, if you just read them over, seem like regular family rules. No drugs, be home by 9, dinner at 6:30, do your homework, don't take things, nothing weird there, right? Wrong, any kind of drug found in his possession, prescription or over the counter, not even cough drops, grounded for a month, not home by 6:30 p.m, no food, not home by 9 p.m, locked out. He had to walk to my house on multiple occasions just to find a place to sleep. But by far the worst of the worst was that anything found in his possession that was not believed to be his must be stolen and should and will be destroyed, trashed, thrown away. He had an autographed painting of 2D from the band Gorillaz that was a gift from a mutual friend, ripped up the moment he got home. My parents were very strict. Examples: when my dad was done eating dinner, you were done eating dinner, but you had to eat everything on your plate. 2. He was a quick eater. 2. So I'm a quick eater. Almost any infraction resulted in a belt whipping. Lie, whipping. Break something, whipping. Grade below a B, whipping. Late for curfew, whipping. Not answering as quickly or as thoroughly as my dad wanted, whipping. We weren't always whipped. I was punched a couple times, once in the stomach and once in the head. One brother was shot in the back with his BB gun when he and his friend were shooting on our property and a BB ricocheted and accidentally hit his friend. Another brother was beaten several times before he was 6 and then just ignored because he wasn't salvageable. My parents are the main reason it took me so long to have a child of my own. I didn't want to frick them up. I now know myself well enough at 40 to realize I won't make all the mistakes my parents did. Just to be clear, your dad's a criminal, guilty of criminal battery. My stepfather installed a little gadget on the phone that cuts the line every night at 11 PM and turned back on at 7 AM. I was 17, home alone on a weekend, and had our house broken into, which led to our TV getting stolen. It ended up being my fault because I didn't call the police. I had an Iranian friend in middle school, pretty hairy. Her parents decided one year that her grades weren't good enough, and as punishment, she wasn't allowed to shave, wax, remove any facial hair. I've never seen such a thick unibrow. That is freaking cruel. When I worked in the portrait studio in Sears, a lady brought her 2 children in and wanted their portraits only taken separately. She was very clear that she did not want them together whatsoever. Anyway, I was photographing her 2-year-old son while she was yelling at her 3-year-old daughter for seemingly no reason. When I asked what the matter was, because I was afraid she may be abusing the child from the crying, she told me that her daughter had misbehaved by reading a children's book called 5 Little Ducklings when she told her to sit, be still, and not speak. The girl was 3 years old, for frick's sakes. I thought parents were supposed to encourage reading, especially at that age. When I was in 5th grade, my buddy was verbally berated by his stepdad for about 5 full minutes for not lacing his high-top sneakers all the way up. His stepdad made him lace them up right in front of me while he yelled at him. This kid also routinely got in trouble for getting dirty, his bike dirty, drinking soda, eating popcorn. He had braces, oh no, pretty much anything. I ran into that kid years later when he was just getting sober from heroin. Female friend of mine who has a 4.0 was grounded because she hung out with us on a Friday night and her mom viewed that as her putting her social life before academics and college. We're seniors. I have so many. Had to ask permission anytime I wanted food or a drink. Not that bad, right? Well, this included water. Also, not allowed to watch basically any slightly off-color movies or TV shows. I wasn't even allowed Teletoon, not sure the American equivalent. Grounded from Reading because it happened to be a thing I liked doing. Not allowed to stop playing a video game until I beat a hard part, even if I was crying. Still hungry after a meal. Drink water. Nearly got in trouble for saying hasta la vista, baby, while playing because the movie it was from was inappropriate. Luckily, I managed to convince them that this was something everyone knew. Had to write hundreds of lines as punishment for various things. I wrote more lines at home than the worst kids at school. I learned to write with my left hand for a while because my right one would cramp up too badly to finish. My school called Cass once because I was crying into my desk at school. I had a headache and didn't want to say anything because in order to give me something for it my school had to call home and get permission, get something dropped off. And last time they'd done that, when I got home my dad had said something like I worked hard all day, migraines blah blah. If you call home for something like that again I'll give you something to complain about. Nothing really came of the Cass thing. Any abuse just continued verbally, emotionally and calmed down physically, while being yelled at. Basically any reaction was forbidden. Crying led to I'll give you something to cry about type reactions. Anger and accidental smiling were obviously out as well. I once flinched because my father accidentally spat in my face while yelling at me and he said something to the effect of "What's the matter? Did I spit in your face?" with the S's representing what you might imagine. Gosh, I'm having trouble remembering any other ones right now. But I assure you, there were more. Edit. Remembered a couple more things. We weren't allowed to leave the table until we finished every single bite of food on our plate. If we stayed there until bedtime, it'd be there for breakfast in the morning. My brother once put what my father considered too much ketchup on his meal because he wasn't very fond of whatever it was, probably breaded fish. So my father emptied basically the entire thing of ketchup onto his plate and made him eat it all. A friend in high school had terrible parents. They made him pay for the food he ate out of their pantry, and were all around ridiculously strict. His older sister ran away at 18. I'm surprised they weren't taken from them by authorities, honestly. Also once he was given a $700 800 Taylor acoustic guitar by a generous man at his church, and his parents took it from him and later sold it because it was a distraction from his all A grades. Something about how playing guitar is a privilege he had to earn or some balls. There was a kid in my school who wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons and would tell his mum if someone tried to watch it if he was around. I didn't like him very much. I wasn't allowed to stay out at all as a kid. I had stupidly early bedtimes up until I was 18. Figured out pretty quickly that my mum just wanted to get rid of me. She would keep checking on me, yelling and screaming if I wasn't asleep. I wasn't even allowed to read a book. I would just sit and watch kids my age and younger play outside when I was a kid. The annoying thing was, I was expected to be away from the house all day in the summer holidays. I would just grab my bike and cycle around the tiny town all day doing nothing. A lot of the time I would end up in the park, hiding around the pond, watching kids my age play football, soccer, or just hanging out. She made sure I didn't have any friends. I wasn't allowed to go to people's houses or have people over. I was made to feel awful if I tried and gave up at an early age. She never let me have parties or even have anyone over on my birthday. I didn't even attempt to go out with people after I was 9/10. I couldn't make any mistakes, otherwise it was like the world ended in our house. I was this awful kid who was always bad and was treated that way even if I didn't do anything that warranted the yelling, screaming and hitting. I always felt like I was failing even though I got good grades and didn't get in trouble. But if any little thing happened it was bad. She wouldn't let me have a lift to school no matter how sick hurt I was. I wasn't allowed to be sick or hurt. She would yell at me if I asked or wanted to stay home. When I got sick from stress when I was 8-10, she didn't try and make me feel better. She yelled at me, screamed at me and blamed it on me. When I busted my foot in karate, it was an accident. Roundhouse kick caught an elbow. She made me walk the 2 miles to school the next day. It took me over an hour and a half to make a 15-20-minute trip and she made sure my bike had punctured tires so I couldn't ride it. I wasn't allowed to go get it checked out either. It was badly swollen, black and painful, but she told me it was fine. That does it. I am out. There is some fricked up stuff in this thread, but denying medical care takes the cake. Some people shouldn't be allowed to raise children. Not exactly strictness, but this was definitely an example of parents being unduly hard on a kid. My friend's parents had been divorced since he was young. In middle school, he really wanted this jacket for Christmas. Both parents got him one. He then had to make sure when he was with one parent, he wore the one they got him and not the one the other parent got him and vice versa. One time he slipped up, and one parent noticed he was wearing a different one and asked him where he got it. The parent was then mad at him for it. I knew a kid whose dad was in the military. Whenever he did absolutely anything all pops frowned upon, he basically put him through a mini boot camp. Also, the first time I showed up his mom lectured me on how I held a fork. I never went back. My family makes fun of me for the way I hold my fork. They say I hold it like a European. My dad wouldn't let me get Lego kits unless they were for my age group. I just wanted to build crap. My dad, who is an engineer, always bought me the most complicated Lego and director sets when I was little. I'm pretty sure it was just so that he could put them together when they proved to be too difficult for me. When I was 16, I was going out with a girl of the same age, whose parents demanded she be back home by 1900 every day. They'd hit her if she was late. I found out later. Pardon me while I never complain about my parents again. I knew a couple kids that couldn't watch the Animaniacs because the word maniacs was in the title. Then their mother went and stole some money from the PTA. You have been visited by the good sleep Yoda. You will be blessed with cozy, restful sleeps, but only if you comment sleep tight Yoda. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.